This new world is punishing.
We stay here. We die.
What's going on, guys? This is Mr. DeLorean here. Welcome to today a brand new video. And today what I want to do is break down the new, intense, and absolutely insane teaser trailer that we got for Fear the Walking Dead Season 7. Now, prior to this teaser trailer, we have gotten extensive looks into our characters' lives after Teddy's nuclear holocaust / new wasteland that he's left our characters in, with seeing Morgan and Gracie's new kind of life inside the submarine and everything with the dog, and kind of how they get supplies for the baby and everything and all of that. And also seeing June and John Sr.'s new life and everything down in Teddy's nuclear bunker. And through teaser images, seeing where Al, Daniel, Sarah, and Luciana are and everything, and seeing where Dwight and Sherry are in a crazy military base. But now we get a really extensive look with this new Season 7 teaser trailer and everything into new enemies, new locations, and seeing that the CRM are actually going to be involved in Season 7 or anything, heavily involved with Morgan, Al, and just we're going to get to see more of them and how they work in Fear the Walking Dead Season 7. So without further ado, let's hop right into the trailer. So throughout this trailer, or teaser trailer, we only see Strand twice, which is one, him going out into the first shot, I think, is him going out into the new nuclear wasteland and kind of this Mad Max Fury Road type jacket that we did see Morgan and Grace have on. So this does confirm that his group is up to date and everything with the whole nuclear apocalypse, and won't just go out naked and everything into the radiation. Because in other teasers we did see Strand's group and everything, because he does have a new group of people and everything, which will he be a villain or will he be a helpful group? But it does show that his group is kind of up to date and everything, and isn't just gonna go out without any radiation protection mask and everything, because if they didn't and everything, that'd practically be them just killing themselves, which is what's the point of living. We do see him going out to the smoke and everything out of what could be the hotel that him and that one guy held up in when the nuclear blast did go off, and maybe that's where them will start forming their group and everything. But Strand does mention this new world is punishing, which I'm assuming might be a line saying maybe someone's dying from radiation, and he's saying this world is new punishing, well, this new world is punishing as someone's dying, which would be a pretty cruel way to go. And we do see him at the end of the trailer and everything with kind of a sailor's cap on, and he kind of tips a bottle of wine or a glass of alcohol and everything, and says to whatever's next. Now, telling by Strand's kind of look and everything, it does kind of look like he's taking this world a little less seriously, in my opinion, or the situation a little less seriously, which does make sense. I think you don't want to be where Morgan and Grace and John and June are or anything, where it's fucking horrid, because Strand and his new group seem to be pretty far away from where the initial blast happened. Doesn't mean they're completely away from the dangers of radiation, but it does mean they're a little bit safer and everything. And Strand seems to be very optimistic as he's probably leading this new group and everything, and just seems to be enjoying it. He does say to whatever's next, meaning something might have happened, of impact. Like I said, someone could have died. Now let's move on to the new enemies, CRM, Morgan, Al, and just their entire storyline. I did want to go over a bit of Strands and everything, even though in my opinion it's not too massive yet and everything, but the new enemies, Morgan, Grace, Al, and the CRM, that's big shit. So we see Morgan in what looks to be either the submarine or Al's kind of old SWAT Jeep / vehicle, and we hear as Al does say to what I do think is Morgan or anything, since the color grading seems to be the same and does look like they're in the exact same setting, which might be the submarine or Al's an old SWAT vehicle. And she does say to Morgan, if we stay here we will die, which could be the SWAT vehicle, or there could be the submarine, I think, since I don't think that's sustainable for too long. Then we get a shot of Al and everything, and she does say it to what I do believe is Morgan or everything, and she does say if we stay here we die, which yet again I'm heavily assuming is the is inside the SWAT vehicle. But also at the end of season 5, or season 6, we did get to see Al and her group being taken by the CRM. So how is Al back with Morgan and his group? We didn't get to see Morgan and what might be Al or maybe Grace or some other people, because there's clearly a lot more people that Morgan and Grace and Al are gonna find in the season 5 trailer, or I'm so sorry, in the season 7 teaser trailer. We do see him bursting on what looks to be maybe a bar or maybe a hotel or just some other things. We do get a shot of what looks to be maybe Morgan or Grace or another group and everything, or some other person going out to the nuclear wasteland. We do get June in down in what I do believe is Teddy's old bunker and everything, and she said it's to pretty much someone saying we don't know what type of radiation's even up there after the waste blast, which she does make a really good point and everything. But also I do wonder who she's talking to. It could be John Sr. saying we have to get get out of here and like to find out and to build a life up there, because life can't just be what's down here in this bunker, which obviously makes a lot of sense, and I would hate to live down there for the rest of my fucking life. But I do wonder if she's talking to either Morgan, because obviously Morgan, Grace, Al are all capable of getting supplies and everything and going down there, because they have like, you know, the nuclear repellent suits and the gear to like, you know, make the travels. But at the same time, I don't think they will know that they're there unless maybe there's like, you know, radios down in like, you know, the bunker where John and June are staying, because obviously there's radios inside like, you know, Morgan and Grace's submarine. Obviously Al has full access to radios with the CRM. Next we do get Grace or Morgan or anything tracking or kind of like, you know, looking at the radiation levels on top of like, you know, a walker that has been like, you know, radiated the hell out of it or anything from the nuclear blast, which obviously makes to like, you know, June's previous point, which is like, you know, we don't even know how radiated it is up there. So maybe like, you know, this trailer in like, you know, season 7, we're gonna find out how truly horrible it is, because Strand did mention that like, you know, this new world is really punishing and everything to whatever's next, so we're gonna truly see how bad it can be. Now next we get a shot of what could be our first villain of season 7 and everything, which are these 3 people with like, you know, high like, you know, caliber guns, like, you know, machine guns and everything. Can I just say the set design looks really weird in my opinion? Like, it looks good and creepy, but it also looks like it's a set. Like, it looks cool and it really does display a true nuclear wasteland and the horrors of it and everything, and how discoloring and like, you know, creepy it can look at what this looks to be night. But I do wonder if these are like, you know, new villains and everything, because I'm not verifying these are new villains, but they do look pretty villainous in this horrid, scary, discolored wasteland, I think, with guns like, you know, loading up. We do get a car rolling up on someone or everything. It looks to be Isabella's haircut, telling from the back, and like, you know, the light shining on and everything, and it's all at night. So maybe this is like, you know, when our group finds out about like, you know, Isabella, the CRM and everything, which does make sense and I think, because obviously like I said, the CRM are definitely gonna be involved in season 7 in some degree. Maybe this is Morgan and Grace and like, you know, Al and all of them like, you know, rolling up in Isabella and everything, and Al will be like, oh, come on in and everything, because obviously Al knows who like, you know, Elizabeth is. Then we get Grace and everything saying, who the hell is that and everything, which could be her like, you know, talking about Isabella, or maybe those 3 new villains that I did mention earlier in the trailer. And we get a shot of Morgan, what I'm assuming is Grace and maybe Al, and some people that look like they're wearing Reaper masks from The Walking Dead, which they do kind of look like Reaper masks. Also, that's not a theory that like all of a sudden Morgan and like the other group is just gonna go on to become the Reapers. Doesn't make sense. But it does look like they're outside and everything, and yet again, what looks to be a pretty discolored, like, you know, dystopian world and everything. So maybe this is where they'll meet those like 3 other people with like, you know, guns and everything, and like that discolored setting, which would be pretty badass and I think, because season 7 is gonna truly look really different, and they do look really cool here and everything, with like, you know, the nuclear repellent like, you know, gear and everything, the gas mask, and like, you know, like I said, what looks to be like, you know, Reaper hockey masks. And also Morgan says in a really terrifying and like, you know, badass voice and everything, and a really menacing one, saying, let's not find out, after Grace says, who the hell is that? Next we see a car bursting through a warehouse and everything, which in my opinion, I think this is Morgan and like, you know, the others after maybe experiencing like a fight and everything, or being hunted by like, you know, these new people. And yet again, it could be the CRM just like, you know, spooking them out and everything, or this could be a supply run gone wrong and everything, with the new like, you know, enemy and everything being out there, because like I said, there's 3 people with the guns, definitely not like, you know, looking for friends. Next we get a like, you know, group of walkers and everything, our first official look at like, you know, some walkers after the nuclear blast and everything, which I'm stunned that even any made it out of that. But also this kind of does beg the question, will our group be able to kill walkers the way they did in previous seasons, where it's just stabbing them in the head, no worries at all, besides being maybe bit? Because obviously like season 5, they're gonna have to be way more careful when it comes to stabbing walkers and anything. And obviously these new walkers gonna have abilities where they maybe projectile vomit. I'm not sure that really makes sense at all. Or their blood can maybe like, you know, burn through like the suits and everything on skin, so maybe they're definitely gonna have to really use long range weapons, whether if it's a spear or a gun. Next we get someone, I'm not sure who and everything, rolling on what looks to be Al's SWAT van, or maybe a tank truck. I'm not 100% sure like, you know, who this is or what they're rolling under, but all I do know is that if they're rolling under here and anything, this does mean that a threat is nearby to like, you know, someone, which it could be Morgan, Grace, Al, or someone a part of their group and anything. Maybe this is June or John Cena and they escaped like, you know, the bunker and everything, and they're hiding from someone, maybe the new enemies that I did mention. Now here's where we get our first official shot of most likely the CRM in season 7 of Fear the Walking Dead. And yet again, I do think that's Al's kind of like, you know, SWAT truck and everything. We do get to see a CRM, well, I'm assuming a CRM and everything, don't like quote me on that, but I do heavily believe, since the CRM are the only people we've ever seen with helicopters. But also we did get to see Dwight and Sherry with the military groups, so maybe this is the military group with that helicopter. I'm still going with the CRM and everything, but we do get to see a CRM helicopter thing following behind Al's SWAT van van. So maybe Al's like, maybe the Al's escaping or anything. Maybe like, Elizabeth's group, like, the CRM found out about this and like, was trying to exterminate Al. Because obviously they're like, the CRM want to stay very vigilant and very like hidden and everything in the world. Anyone finds out about them is gonna get a bullet in the head. But I do believe this is maybe Al leading like, Elizabeth and maybe some of her friends to like, the CRM friends and everything, even though they don't seem that friendly, back to the nuclear wasteland to help her friends and maybe meet up with Morgan and like all those other people until they find out the new enemies. And maybe Elizabeth will die or Isabella will die. I think Isabella's her name. That would have really sucked if I was calling her a different name the entire video. We do get to see like, the SWAT van, truck, guns and everything kind of like, ramping up and everything ready to fire, which I do wonder like, where they're gonna fire at and everything, because there's like, flashlights beaming down on it and everything, and it's in the woods. This could be Al meeting up with like, Morgan and Grace and everything, or it could be something else. I'm not 100% sure. We do get to see walkers and everything behind kind of like, cages, or not cages, gates and everything, which I do wonder where this is, because it looks like kind of like a farm, and I do wonder who has these walkers trapped and who put them there, because it does heavily remind me of season 6 when like, when Strand and like, Alicia and like, all those people had to take out walkers and everything to like, reveal some nuclear warhead weapon or anything, but it was really nothing, and they had to kill people like, or walkers inside of this kind of like, board Cajun system. Next we are revealed and everything what I do think is a military walker, or it's a kind of walker with kind of the gear of like, nuclear wasteland gear and everything with like the jacket. So I do believe this is either a military walker or a nuclear wasteland jacket walker and everything. Maybe a person that just died. This is maybe what Strand means by this world could be punishing, which does make sense and everything, and will show how truly punishing this nuclear wasteland can be to our group. Now next we get to see a really quick shot of people, guns blazing and everything, and now I do not think this is anyone from our group and everything. We cannot confirm that it is like a foe, although this, like I said, this doesn't look like anyone from like our group and everything, so I do believe it's a possible foe and everything, just firing random shots. And I think we do also get to see horses, which is kind of like, I wonder how animals will react and everything to this nuclear wasteland. Obviously not well, and they'll probably die off pretty quick, but I do wonder who they're firing at. Is this a friend or foe, or maybe like, new members of our like, friendly faction groups? Although this person running like, in between these two people does look to be maybe Strand. I'm not sure. It kind of looks like him, although I'm not sure. And if this is him, maybe this is his new like, faction or group that he formed and everything, and maybe they're gonna take on another group, or maybe they're gonna like, maybe they're firing at our group, like, Morgan, for all we know. Now next is a pretty crazy shot, because we do get our first official like, thing of what could be happening with Alicia possibly in season 7. So we get to see this old-fashioned kind of like, cannon firing at what looks to be a pretty fancy gate. And where do we see Alicia and everything last in season 6? Boom, a pretty official or like, fancy hotel or mansion or estate and everything. So I do believe this is maybe someone trying to blow open like, the vault or the bunker and everything, like, get her out of there. And this place does look to be pretty clean, away from like, nuclear material or nuclear discolorment or, the nuclear wasteland. It does look to be a pretty old weapon used from old times. And who else did we see with very old time, like, kind of weaponry or like, look of old times and everything? To be Strand, because Strand had on like kind of like, old looking sailors, like, cap and everything. This looks like a very old fashioned weapon. So maybe this is Strand trying to break Alicia out of like, the fancy hotel bunker, which does make sense in my opinion. Or maybe it's Morgan, since he does have like, kind of the old fashioned, like, submarine type, like, thing, like, the breakout, either like, faction that's breaking around and everything. I do feel this is like, 110% the like, someone trying to break Alicia out of the bunker and everything, and out of this place. Next we get to see a lot of cars getting damaged, which is something that Walking Dead loves to do, until we get to see like, a final shot of essentially a car going flying off a cliff, which obviously this is like, a main character or somebody, or maybe not, because I doubt they would show us like, this clip if it didn't mean some form of significance into season 7. So maybe it's just Morgan, Al, Daniel, like, Strand, somebody crashing a car. I'm not sure who, since there's not much to really go off of here. And that was the teaser trailer for Fear the Walking Dead at season 7. Definitely tons of crazy shit and everything that we had to go over in this video. Stuff such as like, how Morgan, Grace, Al, and everything are like, surviving in this new nuclear wasteland or anything. How the CRM could be involved, like, and maybe finding Morgan, Al, and Grace and everything in June, and like, John Sr., and helping them through their like, kind of wasteland troubles, but also possibly finding a new evil faction or anything in like, the wasteland. And is the new evil faction Strand's group? Is it another group or anything that's inhabited the wasteland? Or is it like, someone else and anything completely different? Maybe it's the CRM. And also, wonder if Alicia is gonna be broken out of her bunker and anything, telling by the like, old-fashioned cannon and everything firing at what looks to be a pretty fancy place. But that was my breakdown for the season 7 teaser trailer for Fear the Walking Dead and everything. Make sure to leave your thoughts down below on this teaser trailer and everything. Make sure to like, have a discussion down below and everything on what you guys do think will happen. And do you guys disagree with like, or agree and everything with a lot of my points? If I did miss anything in this trailer, if there's something that you want me to like, bring up, or all of us have a discussion about anything, make sure to leave it down below in the the comments since you want to have a discussion about this trailer and anything, since it was really cool in my opinion. And as per usual, I'll make sure to link it down below so you guys go take a look at it for yourselves and everything, which I do highly recommend as per usual since it was really cool. And yep, I see you guys later, my amigos, and peace out.